1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hello.
Welcome.
You cut me off. I'm Ben Ellwood.
I'm Jen Carnovale.
And this is the Oink Time podcast.
Yes, it is. And if you like the podcast, give it 5 stars and tell all your friends.
It's the most important thing. Thank you to the Young Henry's Brewery for giving us free beers and supporting the show.
Today's guest is Robyn Reynolds.
Yeah.
And you say the word.
Oh, I say the word. The word is relocation.
Relocation. Relocation.
I think millennials are people, correct me if I'm wrong, that don't really remember a digital-free childhood. And
I
think Gen
didn't have a phone when I was in primary school.
Yeah, right.
These are delicious. Thank you.
And I think Gen Y are people...
I've been tinkering with the recipe.
I love baking.
That, Gen Y are people that,
I should bring something.
But I'm 89. I don't know what I am.
Does it even matter? It's just all fucking marketing terms to trick people into fucking being in demographics.
Yeah.
You should try some of the brownies.
Have you seen that film called
I've just eaten
Our Time Will Come with Vincent Cassel?
It's regular
I
brownie.
was recording.
I'll watch
I
it.
realized everyone's eating.
I don't know what your predilections are like. It's like a deeply upsetting film. Like, it's grubby. It's about these 2 redheads that are sick of being maligned for being redheads, and they decide that they're going to move to Ireland where there's heaps of redheads, so they'll finally be...
I've seen the trailer for this.
Have you heard of this film?
Yeah, I've seen the trailer for this.
It's fucking... it's demented.
Yeah,
and
I
Vincent
must watch
Cassel
it.
just plays like this, just pure id, just walking around with his cock out the whole time, just being a menace. And I can't tell if it's a really profound film or just a really ugly,
stupid,
grubby film. It was very funny.
Jenny, you still free Sunday?
Did you ever see
Before the
Hatred?
No.
It's got Vincent Cassel.
6 till 8, I'm free.
Huber,
Gigs at 8.
something.
Yeah, I gotta, yeah.
Elizabeth
I can
Hubert?
ask to get on later.
No.
So like
it's a guy
6:30
called Huber. It's actually a boxer,
to
but he, like, did
8:30
this
or
one
6
film.
to 8.
It's really good. It's called
Okay.
Hatred. It's set in the it's set in the 90s. It's set in Paris. It's sort of timeless because they made it black and white, which was really clever. So like even when you watch it, and Paris is even rougher now than it was then. And I think they made the film with sort of like things are going to change maybe.
Yeah,
and
right.
it's so much worse now. But honestly, I watched films for like 4 years at film school, and now I never want to watch another.
Where did you study?
London, University of London.
Cool.
Do you not want to watch films anymore? Because I went to...
I think I have a terrible attention span now.
Well, everyone has a terrible attention span now.
Yeah, but you always go to watch films, Ben. I know nothing about films, so this will just be an education for me.
No, but you don't need to... But, like, well, it either grabs you or it doesn't. But when I went to film and TV school, I couldn't watch a movie for a long time because all I could see was what was happening just beyond the frame of the screen.
Exactly.
And you can see, you know, there's some dude in short shorts with a boom and there's gaffer tape everywhere. And so the mystery and the magic of it wasn't
And
there.
also the analysis of it, because I don't know about you, but I had to write so many essays.
So yeah, film analysis came to me later in life, so now I really appreciate
It's
it.
a huge part of my degree. I think I chose poorly with uni.
No, I wish I could go back to uni and do film studies.
Well, what did you want to do, like when you signed up for it?
Actually, I did a dual degree, which is harder to do in Australia, but it's like the thing to do in England if you don't know what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
So I did French as a full subject and I did film as a full subject.
Yeah, wow.
I just tried to take the film modules that had French films, which was really easy because there's loads of them. And then I became a French translator.
Oh, cool.
You speak fluent French? Yeah,
Is that what you do now?
No, I tried to do that when I came here. So I moved here with the intention of just coming here for like a year.
Yeah.
My dad lives here. He's Australian. But it took... I won't even go into because it's honestly so stressful to even remember now how hard it was to come out and prove that I was Australian.
Even with a blood relation parent?
My dad is just... He lost... or I don't... It's
Still trying to prove you exist, basically.
it's
Is this a metaphor for your relationship with your father?
He did. Oh man, you've touched upon something there. We barely have time to unpack this. But I came over just on like I was like, oh, it'd be nice to get to know my dad. And it was so difficult to get out here. And anyway, so I came out with just like, oh, I'll just be here for a year. I was still working as a freelance French translator for a headhunting company, but it was I got really bad heat sickness when I moved here, which I know sounds...
Really?
I never thought it could be a thing.
It's the most English thing I've ever.
I got heat sickness. Oh, I mean, we get.
I never thought it could be a thing. I moved. I did the worst thing because I was waiting for my passport to come. I was waiting. And by the time it came, I had started this process in like English summer, which would have been perfect to move to Australia. It's what it's recommended. I thought it'd be so easy. And my dad just did everything wrong. So I had to do it all from my side, which is so difficult. Can't believe I'm even talking about this now. I can feel my blood pressure rising. But so I ended up eventually getting here, but I came when it was -5 in England to 40 degrees.
Oh yeah, that's full on.
And I thought I'd be fine, but I just got so sick so quickly.
Yeah. Like heat stroke, but like intense or?
It was like the flu. Like every time I moved, I felt like I was going to throw up.
Oh, whoa.
No, so I'm like that all through summer. That's why I'm so depressed in summer and grumpy. It's fucking awful.
And now I love summer.
Really?
I'm into
Yeah.
it. I like to sweat. It feels good for you.
See,
Yeah,
I get too body conscious in the summer.
Yeah, Ben likes layers.
I like layers. I like being able to drape a scarf over my, pecs.
There we go. I was like,
Carefully
which
chosen.
bit is he talking about?
My breasts. I
pecs.
like.
You can say pecs. You have pecs.
Oh, I've got pecs underneath some breasts, sure. But I get very body conscious, and so I can't really relax into the summer. I feel like if I was a man who was more comfortable in his body, I would love the summer.
You got to go to Europe or something. Like
Yeah,
every
you do.
time I
You
go
have to
on
go to France.
I feel like in another 10 years when I
See
go
all the
like
fat
full
men and
grey and all that kind of stuff, and then you're officially invisible because
if
you're just a fucking 50-year-old man.
But you go on holiday, and it's not just Europeans, but like, I don't know, any summer holiday, there is people who, they just don't give a fuck.
There's a different kind of fat in Europe.
No,
It's
man.
a different kind of fat.
No.
The Western Anglo fat is different from European fat.
I don't know about that. What about like Russian fat? Is that similar?
That's Eurasia. I'm talking about Europe, Mediterranean. Think of a fat Mediterranean man,
They have very skinny legs. And
skinny
then
legs and a
all
big belly, but they
stomach.
don't have tits.
And they're very
They do
oiled.
have a bit of tits,
Oil.
but
They
they
do,
are
but you
all
don't
stomach.
notice.
because the stomach's very
Yeah.
big.
I
See,
think
if I lose weight, it goes off my belly, it goes on my face. The tits stay the same. It's unbelievable. I was actually considering cosmetic surgery for the first time in my life.
What about
Just
the women?
drain 'em.
The women look like that. You could just not fit in. I don't know where
What are you saying that I should, just pretend that I'm trans so that I fit in as a
I don't
fat
know where
person
I
in
was
summer?
going with that. I was imagining an overweight old European woman, and I got lost in my thoughts.
Well, all of this is to say that I relate to you very much. I didn't get heat stroke, but I don't like the
too
summer.
drape scarves over my breasts. Where did we get? Where was I relating to?
Oh, your dad.
So I tried to be a French translator over here, and it didn't really work. I got really sick, and then by the time I got to some of my emails, I was like, God, the time difference is actually going to be quite difficult. Because I suppose when I was in England, I would just be like sitting in my pajamas, and people would ring me and they'd be like, do you know what this said? And I'd be like, yes, I do. And I would just quickly send off what it said. And it was great money. And I did it during university, and I was like a French tutor, and I tried to do that out here. But there just wasn't enough work.
Yeah.
There really wasn't enough work. And I rang up, so it's like Alliance Française, and you can be a Chevalier de France, which is like a Knight of France, if you like show dedication to the French language, blah, 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 blah.
How do you, wait, how do you,
Hello.
Yeah, how do you show dedication to
honestly,
the French
I think
language?
I would have had to be like really culturally enmeshed with France for like a decade. But basically I had a meeting with this woman who had done it, and she was like, oh, you can do this and this and this and this and this. But it was like a really hard graft. Like it was like, oh, you'll have to work for free for ages and like just keep trying.
I don't know about that.
Well, no. So it just became really difficult.
It just sounds like comedy.
Yeah,
you gotta work really hard
But then
for 10 years for free.
And then you might get to be in the club.
Well, that's the thing is I was like, oh, okay, so French is getting a bit difficult. I think I did a few French tutoring sessions, but it was just quite difficult to get around without a car, and I really didn't know what I was doing in Sydney either. And I was staying at my dad's in Rockdale.
When did you move here?
The very beginning of 2016.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So yeah, I just didn't really know what I was doing, and I was like, do you know what? I'll try and use my film degree for the first time ever. And I worked on a couple of films. I just like emailed production companies, and I was like, hello, I have this degree, and I will.
And I don't know what's happening, and I need a job.
And I speak French if you need. Do you need that? Is that? And they were just like, that's cool. No, but like you can come be a runner. So I just was a runner on a few films, all unpaid.
Oh man,
All
that
unpaid.
sucks.
None of the jobs were paid. I was just like, okay, this is a bit weird. I was like, this country is strange.
Well, we don't have a film industry.
We don't have any
So whoever's
industry.
in it-
Nobody
Anything.
needed French. So two of the skills that I had were just not required.
Shit.
So I sort of segued into a job at NIDA.
Oh, cool.
And I just did admin at NIDA for a year.
Yeah,
and
right.
Everyone was crazy.
Did you know that did you know that there's a complete lack of culture industry in this country before you decided
I did
to come?
not.
Yeah, because I
Unless you're
feel
into
like
uranium or coal, there's really not much going on.
I feel like we're not
Australia.
known for French or films. I mean, creepy films once every few years, but yeah, we have zero really.
I
think people who are in it fight for it too, and they stay there forever.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah, and I used to when I first got into comedy, you know, there's definitely like, oh, there's the gatekeepers and there's the people that cling to a job for decades, and you know, there was that resentment, like, you know, I'll move on, fucking give the new people
Well,
a
guys
chance.
who-
But you get it.
Yeah, guys who do like warm up acts make a lot of money, and they hold on to them for dear life because there's like 5 of them who can do it, and it's a steady income in comedy.
So what got you, like, what did you, first of all, why did you stay? Like, why, because you said initially it was just going to be a year.
Yeah, it was just going to be a year. I think I stayed mainly because of Brexit, which I know is a
Really?
bit. Yeah, I really did mainly stay because I just looked at the country I had left and I was like, oh, I don't really recognize it.
Yeah, right.
I was like, I don't really because I voted from postal vote from here. None of us, like I say, none of us, none of us in my group of friends, we couldn't have been farther away from thinking that Brexit would happen.
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
voted. We just thought it was like
Yeah.
a done deal.
Yeah, you think it's obscene that you even have to vote on it.
Exactly. We were like, oh no, there's not that many races. Like they're old and they're quiet most of the time, the racists.
I think that's the terrifying thing that's happening, like, across the world right now, you know, with Trump, and then, you know, not that, I mean, Scott Morrison's not great, but he's definitely no Trump.
Yeah.
But, you know, to a lesser degree, that whole thing, you know, a few months ago, it was just like, wow.
Well, that doco came out, the company, what was it called? Something Cambridge.
Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Cambridge
they
Analytica and Facebook.
they came out and sort of like very quietly, but there's enough evidence now to say that they're behind Brexit. So.
Oh, Brexit was the biggest campaign of misinformation since
Yeah.
basically we got into World War II. Like,
yeah.
or like World War One, even like all of it was basically that much in the press. Like, oh, these
Propaganda.
immigrants are evil, and Brexit will solve everything.
Do you think that the motivation behind that stuff, like when you say like, oh, you know, it's a country full of racists, like I don't doubt that there is like a large contingent of people that are racist, but then there's also this thing of like, could it be also that just like we live in an age of just complete misinformation and detachment from any kind of
Well, it's
nuanced
just fear. It's the same here.
No, I know that, but like we're also like, I mean, even from when we were kids, the news is very different. Like it's no longer an informational package. It is just
Well,
an
that's
assault.
the thing is, I like to think I still do. That's why we were also like naive. We were like, oh, it's a racism thing, and we don't have that many racists. Like I grew up in such a multicultural like town, and then I went to uni in London, and it was so multicultural. I did not even think about it.
Yeah.
Like people here will go, oh, where are you from? You look Eastern European. I never had that in England ever. Like nobody gave a flying fuck where you were from. We were like, oh, we're English. But I don't think it was racism that caused Brexit. I think it was misinformation.
Yeah,
like people were
totally.
like, oh, we're going to put the money back into the NHS. What money? Oh, the EU's been doing this and this and this. No, they haven't. They're trying to get rid of torture laws. We don't want to torture people.
Yeah.
It was just a huge, huge campaign of misinformation for people reading like tabloid newspapers and not going on the internet. And they really got the grey pound vote. And for whatever reason,
What's the grey pound vote?
It's like the older people.
Oh, okay, right,
So
yeah.
they got that vote. And those are the people who were like, oh, yeah, go back to the good old days when, you know, butter was less expensive. And it's like, that has nothing to
Yeah,
do
but
with
that's
what's
the selling
happening.
point for everyone. It's the same in America. The good old days.
It's crazy though, because when you start like
Nostalgia.
realizing how easily gamed the human brain is, like
Yeah.
it's like, you know, like just the average ad has a team of psychiatrists and psychologists behind it, you know, figuring out exactly how to make you feel as small as possible so that you're as needy as possible and the most vulnerable, blah, 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 and you're going to go and buy the product. But most people, like I was watching Border Security with my mum a couple of weeks ago. And I
Great
was
show.
like, well, I mean, it's just like, because I don't know, I haven't had a TV for 15, 20 years. So I very rarely see commercial television. So to see it in full force, and it's now just this like parody of a parody of a parody. Like it's beyond the pale. It's, you know, It was like when I used to read Mad Magazine when I was a kid, and you couldn't tell what the real ads were and what the parody ads were because it was just all. And now it's like this full blown.
They love playing border security on planes, but I know what it is now. It's like a bunch of Aussie customs guys picking out the one Mandarin speaker and being like, "Oi, mate, what's in your bag? We've got the dogs," and it's just like,
but it's complete. And that's what I was railing, just going, "This is complete, this is a propaganda machine."
Yeah.
It's like, what are you talking about? It's just a show telling people not to bring food, and it's like, okay, we watched 3 episodes in a row, and before they introduce you to each person, these are the 4 people we're covering over this episode, and it's always just 2 Asians, an Indian guy, a black guy, and a white guy. And in every episode, I'd be like, guaranteed the white guy gets out of here, and it was just a misunderstanding, mate. On you go. And with the Asian person, with the big red stamp over their face, evicted, get out of here. And it's so blatant, and it's so like, it is like kind of like maybe not World War II-esque propaganda, but it's on that kind of, it's of a similar
slippery slope
relation.
No, it's be scared of the other.
Be scared of the other. And these people coming into our country, they're doing the wrong thing, and you better give them the side eye, and it's up to you to be a good citizen and make sure that they're not doing the wrong thing. But she couldn't even fathom. She thought that I was just being a whacked out conspiracy theorist and hysterical.
Your mum just wants you to enjoy some telly,
Just relax and fucking enjoy border security, mate.
Mum and son time.
Trying to talk to my dad about this is really weird because I remember him, like, the brief sort of period he was around. Like, I remember him being really tolerant, really open. And his parents were refugees who came to Australia. And now he will say stuff and I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, just because we're white doesn't mean that this is our country in any way, shape or form.
Well, just the idea that you can own a country is
I know.
just relax,
Australia
guys.
of all countries. I was like, the only reason I have this accent is because I was born in it. I don't have any claim to anywhere.
I don't think anyone has any claim to anything.
So silly.
It's just
people try to, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's what was so scary about Brexit is, my friend was on the bus and they're both, I think she's Pakistani and her boyfriend was, I think, Korean. I can't remember, but I didn't meet him. It was over before I got back to see them. But they said that people were like throwing shit at them on the bus. They were like, "Oh, go back to where you came from." And she was like, "I'm from Hackney." Like, what? I'm trying to go back to where I came from. I'm on the bus trying to go back to where I came from.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also this thing of like, know your fucking history. If you guys hadn't spent, hundreds of years being a colonial power that went and invaded all these countries,
Brexit,
you wouldn't be full of brown and black people.
Brexit was to do with Europe anyway. She was like, my parents are Pakistani. Like, how would Brexit make me go back to where I came from?
Yeah.
Like, what, splitting from the
Move back
European
to
Union?
Poland.
Should I, what? Yeah, like, what?
That's the thing with all this Trump and Brexit stuff. It's like, have these people have like, of course there is always going to be a contingent of the population that are, heinous racists. But it seems like you said, there's more than anyone kind of realized. And it's like, was there always an innate racism just kind of dormant waiting to be unleashed? Or has all of this stuff that's now kind of just become so normalized? Like when Trump goes off on a rant now, it's just like that thing that everyone feared when he first got in, that it would just become normalized, has come to pass.
Back.
What was that?
Send her back.
Send her back. I mean, there was a little bit of outrage about that.
That was terrifying.
It's just one more
thing.
thing.
The footage of that was absolutely terrifying.
And him just standing there.
Send her back. That
and
was
he said
unreal.
nothing.
No, I know.
He said nothing. That was scary.
Well, he did that face that he does, that kind of pouty lipped face where it's like, I'm not endorsing this, but I'm also not condemning it.
Yeah, but by not condemning it, you are endorsing it if you're the president.
Exactly, of course.
Yeah.
There is no sitting on the fence with that when you're the president, really.
And if somebody in power has those kind of opinions, like I felt like what happened in my country was like these opinions that I'd never heard before because they would have been shut down. These people suddenly got voices and they were vindicated in some way, even though it was nothing to do with race. It was like, oh, let's get out of the EU for some unknown reason because apparently money will go back into the NHS, which was a huge bloody lie. And they were like, oh, great, now it's cool for me to say racist things. And it was like, no, those aren't related.
I feel like this is what it's like, is giving these fucking people airtime.
Yeah.
They were talking about whether or not people should be climbing Uluru. The answer is fucking no, because the Indigenous owners said no. And also, it's a large rock. You can appreciate it from the ground, right? Like, what do you need to fucking climb it for? Do you know who they had on talk shows? Pauline Hanson. That's who they reached out to. They're like, who should we debate this with? The whitest, most racist fish and chip owner that Australia can find. That's who they decided to give a mouthpiece to. Not an Aboriginal elder, not a young, prominent Aboriginal activist.
What did she say?
Oh, everyone has the right to climb Ayers Rock. What do you fucking think she said?
God.
What do you think she said?
Just like I have the right to go into the Vatican with shit all over my shoes. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm no Catholic and I think that Catholicism is fucking putrid, but I would still not walk into the Vatican with mud all over my feet.
Oh,
you know?
dude, whenever I've gone into, like, I went to Hindu temples in Bali, you cover up and show respect because it's a sacred site for someone. It's not your space.
It's not about you fuckhead.
It's just like, it's gobsmacking to me. And I like that whole thing of giving those people airtime. When you give them airtime, you justify their argument. And that's the most dangerous thing, I think.
Well, the New York Times has been doing that. They've been interviewing like Richard Spencer a bunch, that very prominent neo-Nazi in America, and it's like, by all means, like, I guess you got to cover. If there's a prominent neo-Nazi who's got a lot of followers and blah 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 blah, maybe there does need to be some kind of coverage of it. But when you approach it as though he is just another guy with an opinion,
Exactly.
There's
it's
no
like,
debate.
well, no, this is not a fucking normal opinion. This is fucked up.
There needs to be a debate. If
But the
they'd
whole
had,
thing is
And
just,
then the debate, don't get me started, because when I first moved here, so I have a TV, but I just watch Netflix on it.
Yeah,
Because when
me
I first watched it and I saw Australian TV on my dad's TV, there was some debate about feminism and there were 3 white guys.
yeah.
And I was watching it and I was like, okay, when are the women coming? When are the women coming? Oh, the women aren't coming. Okay.
let me explain feminism to you, little lady.
Well, I talked about this with,
But it was like climate change deniers are on TV and I was like, why is this? This isn't news.
airtime.
It's that whole idea of like equal airtime as though, these are equally true facts. They're not equally true facts. I don't understand, like, sure, if there's a debate show and it's about a philosophical concept, then you have equal representation of both sides.
Or show me someone that is as educated as the other side and still holds that opinion. If someone has a PhD and they're still like, climate change is just not real, is it? It's just not coming. I'll be like, all right, do you know what? I will watch this debate. Why do you think that's true? But if you just get someone off the street and they're like, well, I think the warm weather is actually quite nice.
We always talk about how Australia is so conservative. Australia is like one of the most conservative countries, and we all are like, no, we're so laid back and open and we're chilled out. The fucking shit we had to go to bloody legalize gay marriage was humiliating. It's like,
I didn't even realize it was illegal when I moved here.
Yeah.
I was so taken aback.
And they made everyone do that fucking plebiscite. It was just like, it didn't even have the balls to pass it through. We're so conservative. And none of our politicians have none of them will do anything. That's why Pauline gets as much fucking airtime as she does, because no one else on either side will stand by something and say something. The amount of times a politician could have gone, I stand by gay marriage because people are human rights and they have the right to choose how they live their life if they're not hurting anyone. We didn't have one politician who was willing to do that. Do you know how fucking pathetic that is?
But that's the fundamental, that's how fundamentally broken the system is now, that no one can actually have a position that they staunchly stick by unless it's someone like Trump.
Unless they're a caricature.
Then people are like, he speaks his mind.
Exactly right. And unfortunately, the left have a problem at the moment where maybe the best representatives aren't going out and speaking and it's kind of, I don't know, the nuance has been removed from the debate and, I like what...
Well, the art of debate's gone, which I really love. I love hearing a good debate, and I don't think it happens anymore. We had a guest on ages ago who's a comic who hates the Professor Jordan Peterson. You know how he got really famous? And I kind of love that people hate him but wouldn't debate him, because I love a debate, because I'm like... It's really easy to just say, I win because you're stupid. It's really great to just be divisive and go, I'm not going to even talk to that person. Have, on a more current issue, have Pauline Hanson talk to an Aboriginal elder about why they don't want... That's a debate. That's interesting. Have them discuss why one party thinks you should be able to walk up something that means nothing to them except it's a rock, and why another party feels it's sacred. That would be interesting, But instead, it's just like, no, you're right, I'm wrong.
But there is no way out of this. The system is so fundamentally fucking broken at the moment with the media and debate and everything. I don't know how it goes back to any kind of nuance. Like maybe it's just a pendulum swing and it will go back because people are exhausted.
I hope so. It's an interesting time to be alive.
It is. And anecdotally, you are always, like, because when Brexit happened and I was in Australia and I was in absolute shock and I was messaging people and I was like, sorry, is this real? Is it a test? Is this a test vote? Is it a practice vote? Do we get a real one where 25-year-olds are actually going to go outside and vote? Because that was the thing, is loads of people my own age didn't vote because everyone was so sure. But I had, Brits out here being like, oh yeah, this is going to be the best thing ever. I had Australians as well, like, oh yeah, this is so good for you. This is so good. And the reasons they had were so dumb that I was like, by even engaging with you, I myself have already lost.
Yeah.
I'm making myself
that's
stupider.
Right. That's right.
But I think we have to try and talk, otherwise you don't, I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's a fear of talking at the moment. There is a fear of like making a clumsy statement and, having it be misinterpreted and
I'm trying to write a bit about it
because buried.
I emceed a gig and I came back and I was like, did you guys have a good break? Was anyone on their phone? Did you ruin anyone's life? And I'm trying to like build it up into something because you can now. Yeah. You can go on a coffee break and like you spew some hate about someone who's prominent and that's it. Their whole world comes.
I listened to the most interesting fucking episode. You know that podcast Invisibilia?
Yeah.
It's very, very good. It's produced by the ladies that used to do This American Life and they've moved to their own thing and it's about
Invisibilia.
Yeah, invisible things like feelings and emotions.
Ooh. It's cool.
It's
really
very,
cool.
very good. But they did one on call-out culture and they're specifically talking about the hardcore scene in Seattle, I think, in America. And they've got a very, very, very strict call-out culture that if anyone is called out for grubby behaviour, they're basically ostracized from the community, no investigation, no questions asked, get the fuck out of here. And it's like, well, that's a fatal flaw in your system. Like, sure, let's, like, I don't know, like, take everyone seriously, but I don't think you just believe everything by default. Like,
people, if you want someone to change their opinion or their behavior, they're not going to do it by being ostracized.
We're just being completely.
It's just going to reinforce. Yeah.
And it was this story of this lady who was quite a prominent lead singer, and
I've heard this in a band.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
And
that's actually what I thought you were talking about. But that's an older episode, right?
I'm catching up. But she, so she was kind of like came up in the hardcore scene. She was like, it's always been kind of a bit of a grubby anti-woman scene. No clits in the pit and stuff like that. And she's like, and I was determined to change that and fuck these people and I'm going to show them that we're just as worthy. And it was like really empowering and she forms this band. And then one day she's in the car with her best friend in the world and she builds up how this guy is her best friend and he's got her through all of these things for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden they don't say what the thing that he was accused of doing is. He's accused of doing something. He flat out denies it. Everyone in their circle says the woman that's saying this, might be a little bit crazy. We don't know. And this woman, this lead singer of this band says, I had to decide between my best friend of a decade and my politics, and I chose my politics. And I cut him off and he lost his job. He lost everything.
And he got cut out of the community. And
I don't know where he is. And he's, dead to us all. 3 months later, the exact same thing happened to her. And all of a sudden, you're hearing it from the other side of the person that had done this to someone. And now she's there like weeping, going, I can't even walk out of my house anymore. Everyone wants to kill me. I'm terrified. I can't do what I love. I can't do anything anymore. It's like, guys, do you not see that they're like, this stuff does need to be taken seriously. Absolutely. But I don't know, man. Like, it just feels like there's going to be terrible consequences to just complete banishment and complete like cancel culture. It's like where does it lead? Like
just to angry people, I think.
Well, I like
really angry and isolated.
Like some people,
serial killers.
Some people need to be cancelled, no doubt.
Yeah,
there are people that are just vile
like Cosby,
fucking people.
But not everyone is a Cosby.
Well, there just seems to be no nuance in the conversation anymore at all. It's just like get the fuck out, and it's like, and then to hear someone have that kind of roundhouse back on her and her presenting all the exact same arguments that her former friend had presented to her, going like, I didn't do it, I didn't do this, I don't know what to, I don't know.
Robyn, do you worry when you do stand up about things that you say in case someone will misconstrue them? Or?
100%. I was actually just thinking
Do
about
you?
that. Yeah, I was like, I don't even know whether to mention it, but
No, you should. I was wondering that.
there's,
Because
there's so many instances where like, and even like my lovely, lovely, lovely boyfriend who is a comedian.
He's very funny.
He's fantastic. He's the best. I've dragged
He's
him.
also a Chris.
I've dragged
Did you
him
meet through
back
comedy?
We did meet through comedy.
lovely.
Yeah. I've been doing comedy for about 3 months, and there was this gig. And everyone had been bombing. I'd actually gone outside because I was so uncomfortable. I was like, oh god,
This is too painful to
I was
watch.
like, oh, because I don't know about you, but I get like secondhand cringe real bad.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah, but sometimes I enjoy it a little bit. I'm
Oh,
not gonna
mate,
lie.
like,
There is a shouting-for-it.
Like,
Sometimes it's kind of like
I love Peep Show, but not in real life.
Oh,
you
I
know?
love Peep Show.
But so everyone was bombing so hard.
You haven't been doing comedy long enough. Eventually, it gets to a point where you don't laugh at anything but the bomb.
Yeah, mate.
there's some pleasure in it.
I honestly feel like even now it's harder to make me laugh. Like the last time I really, because I had a friend came to one of my comedy shows and she was so sweet, and it was a Jewish comedy show I did recently, and every act was like fantastic. So she was like, when she was leaving, she said, "Oh, I haven't laughed so hard in ages. My cheeks hurt from laughing."
Oh.
And I was thinking to myself, I was like, when was the last time I had that? Like it's so hard to make me laugh now. And
Not anymore.
It was when I saw Michelle Wolf.
Oh, really?
wow. Yeah, cool.
And I was like, oh yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I met my Chris and I had a gig where everyone was bombing, and I went outside, and as I was coming back up the stairs, I was like, oh, I should go in soon because it's my spot soon. As I was coming back upstairs, I heard someone just absolutely destroying, like so hard. I was like, how have they done this? Like so quickly, the turnaround. I was walking up and I looked and I saw this guy who, because he's pretty, this is so funny, but he says it too. He says he's non-threatening, and he is. Like you look at him and you're like, oh, little cutie. Like cutie on stage. You're like, okay. And then he was saying the most disgusting things. And I was like, that's amazing.
I'm in love.
You wouldn't expect it, because it's like sometimes I get away with saying like some pretty dirty jokes.
Yeah.
But I can get away with it like by making a face afterwards or by being a 4'11" woman.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's difficult. Like it is difficult. I've had some really weird comments.
After you've done a set?
After I've done a set, yeah, I've had some weird messages. I've had some weird comments.
Messages?
Yeah.
What,
From
from fellow
comics?
comics?
Or randoms?
Sometimes random. Sometimes someone will like add me on my actual Facebook. I just made a comedian page like a little bit ago, like I think 2 months ago, because people would just add me on my personal Facebook page.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And for a long time, I was like, oh, I guess I just want to keep my personal page personal. But now I realize I've like lost out on people who might come to my fringe show. And I'm like, pay money to go. Anyway.
Yeah, but don't know where I am all the time.
Yeah, don't know where I am
See,
all the
that's
time.
why I'm not doing it anymore. I can't
But yeah, I had
that shit.
this person who I'm not especially fond of but I had them message and be like, oh, you should do more Jewish jokes. Because you're Jewish.
Are they a
and
comedian? Do they call themselves a comedian, but they're a piece of shit?
they call themselves a comedian.
Yeah,
And
I
this
think I
is-
probably know who that is.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
feel
few
like
of those.
Yeah, and this is the same person who to Chris, or to me about Chris, and then I don't know whether they actually said it to Chris. They were like, "Oh, you don't do any jokes about being Asian, and it means you're a race denier."
Whoa!
And he was like, "Oh, I feel like just by being Asian." Like on stage, I'm probably being Asian.
That's hilarious. He would
What
be if he
would
walked up
he-
and said, "As a white bloke
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Ireland,
yeah,
I
yeah.
just want to say."
He actually said
That would be
afterwards, he was
hilarious.
like, I now want to start one of my jokes with like, as
Oh,
a
he
white guy
should.
from Newcastle.
Oh, fuck, he
with
should.
dreads. And he doesn't have dreads.
That would be so funny.
Yeah.
He definitely should.
But I can't remember whether
Race denial.
I can't remember whether she said that to she definitely said that to me, and she didn't even know we were together. And I was like, oh, I think he can do jokes about whatever
the fuck he wants to talk
I
about.
think that's literally word for
And I
word what
think you
said.
can as well.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
hilarious. You should be talking about being
should be
Jewish.
talking about being Jewish.
I've told the story before.
Yeah,
but
go.
I fucking love this. So I don't do stand up very much anymore because the kind of culture.
He's a pussy!
Well, no, it's not about
No,
that at
no,
all.
no,
The culture
it's just-
surrounding it just is putrid and gross and like I don't know. Everyone's
Well, that's
clutching
the
it.
second half of my have to be worried about what I say.
Oh,
Yeah.
what the elaborate?
Yeah, the culture's a bit like I've also, if I say something vaguely sexual
Yeah.
or if I make allusions to being single, which obviously I'm not,
Yeah.
but I have jokes from back when I was single.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here
and
comes the horde.
yeah, I had a guy message me and then He'd seen a gig and he like said he wanted to get into stand-up. So I was like, oh yeah, message me.
This is careful
trick.
with this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
don't ever go for that
I can
one.
tell you how many
But
creepy.
be careful with that. I don't mean to make England out to be amazing, but in England and France, I could make friends with dudes, and they did not try to fuck me.
Australians are weird.
And I have not been able to really do that here. Anyway, I have a joke where I say like, oh, when I first got over here, like everyone was saying too easy. And I was like, how'd you know my nickname? And then I'm like, no, that's a silly joke. And then sometimes if the crowd is really rough or a bit drunk, just to get them to pay attention, I'm like, no, that's a silly joke. My real nickname is Cum Slut. Blah! And then I'm like, no, obviously that's a joke too. But then I'm like, speaking of my grandmother. So, it's like, it's all a joke. No one's going around calling me that.
I think it's also because you're English.
Yeah,
and very pretty. Because in the UK, I didn't make any male. No, because in the UK, I think I was like a novelty. Because every dude I interacted with, I was like, we're mates, and then it would get real gross real quick.
Oh no!
Yeah,
I'm
but you've
so
had that
sorry
problem.
you had that experience.
You've had that problem.
I have had that problem.
Long term.
But yeah, don't ever trust a guy who says they want to get into comedy and they're reaching out to you. Go, cool.
So stupid.
I probably can't help you, but that
nice
wall of dicks over there who are exactly the same as you, they can help you. Because every time I've offered, because I was so gullible. I mean, I still kind of am, but I had an experience with a guy where I ended up telling him to fucking shove it because it just got so full on. And it started really innocently because he's like, oh, I'm the brother of some girls you went to high school with. Do you remember them? And I was like, yeah, they were. Those girls are amazing, of course. And he's like, so you do comedy? I'm really interested in starting. Could you help me out? And I was like, sure. And at the time, I was still with my partner now. And he's like, who's that dude? And I'm like, he's, the sibling of this. And he's like, yeah, cool. So I'm like offering to help. And then it just kept going and going. And then I started getting drunk messages. And then the next day it'd be an apology. And then he tried to neg me and I lost my fucking mind. I was like,
those messages were like, they crept into a realm that was very upsetting.
So I told him to fuck off really clearly. I was like, don't ever contact me again. I'm no longer happy to help you. These are the reasons why. And then he sent me like,
was he calling you like beautiful Jen and stuff?
He sent me 7 messages and it was like in real time an abusive relationship. So the first one, do you remember, Ben? Yeah. The first one was like him being overly nice. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm a piece of shit. I just really wanted to make this right. I'm really interested. Then the next one was, for someone to treat me like this when I don't even remember what I did wrong is really, and then the next one was like,
if you don't remember,
I'm a man in my late 30s and I'm trying to do this and it's really intimidating thinking that you're in a comedy room and you don't like me. And
you've been doing it for 12 fucking years.
I never wrote back to him, but in my head I was like, I don't care if you're intimidated by me. Grow some balls. Women are intimidated in every comedy room they go in because there's fucking sleazy dudes everywhere commenting on their body. I don't give a shit if you're intimidated by me. If you can be intimidated by a woman who's 5 foot nothing, then that's maybe grow a pair.
Do you know
he's not intimidated, they're not intimidated by the physicality.
If I thought I could walk into a room and people would be intimidated, because like I've only just now started to do vaguely, and I mean really vaguely, dirty jokes again, and I've been on the lineup with guys who are full on describing sex acts. Like literally like full on describing sex acts, and I will do like my vaguely dirty joke and I will still be the one who is like, people are going to come up and talk to me.
I wouldn't argue that there is an element of that, but there is, I also think that there is an element of there is a power that a performer has on stage. Put it this way, a lot of dude comics get laid well beyond their league because
and they're gross.
But they don't feel threatened.
They don't feel threatened, no. But it's a but
that's I would posit there's a difference between, because the last time I was nicely hit on, I remember, and it had nothing to do with like stand up, and he just came up and he was like, oh hey, like I think you're really pretty. Would you be interested in like going for a coffee sometime? And I was like, oh no, sorry, I've got a boyfriend. And he was like, oh great. It's not that. Like that's not what I'm getting.
Is it that
on the darkened street after my performer when I'm like, hey, like my Facebook page maybe, and they're like, oh, so that joke about like cum slut, does it on your face? Is that?
Oh,
and I'm like, it was actually.
I have never had that.
It's like a segue into a grandmother joke, actually. So
maybe look more unhinged on stage. I think that served me well.
Look more unhinged, yeah.
I would be the angriest woman. Like I was saying to Jen once,
I get out like me.
That's the thing. It does. It gets exhausting. Like I'll go through phases, and sometimes I'm like, oh lol, what is life? And then other times I'm like, oh fuck life.
Look, I went through a phase where I was pretty down, where I thought I had a bunch of mates in the comedy industry, and then they all became real sleazy real quick. Yep. And Ben was witness to it. It was really upsetting. But at the same time,
it was a bad run. It was pretty grubby. Yeah,
I'd broken up with a partner at the time who was a comic, And
Yeah, and the goals came descending like goals on a chip. It was unbelievable.
the ex wasn't thrilled about that, but I was like, now you know who your mates are. They don't give a fuck.
Well, I mean, it happened with an ex of mine, you know.
Yeah.
I was with someone for a few years and, you know, we were in a highly charged, highly sexed up relationship, and a lot of dudes on the scene would comment, you know, like, you know, she's, you know, and the moment it was over, it was just like... It was like Black Friday. It was unfucking believable. Just people fucking elbowing each other in the face to, you know, suddenly get in line as though A, you know, that's not kind of inappropriate. Your friend just broke up with someone. But B, also, you know, she's an autonomous human being.
Yeah.
She's not just a thing to be had. Like, it's a very
I don't
strange.
know how you like get help with that, Robyn.
No,
'Cause I was trying to think of
You've got to, how long have you been doing stand-up now?
Well, okay, see, this is an interesting, like, chain of conversation. So when I first came to Australia, sorry for the long story. When I first came to Australia, I think, well, I was really lonely. And what I used to do in London and my hometown was just go to comedy shows. So I started going to comedy shows. Like, I paid for them and I went to open mics.
Which was the first ones you went to in Sydney?
Tudor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Tudor. And I didn't have Facebook. I had the Messenger app, but I didn't have a profile. So I didn't know about Open Mic Sydney. And I did not want to do comedy.
Right.
That was never my intention. But
to socialise.
no offense to open mic comedians in Sydney, but I went and the quality was so much lower than London that I was like, holy shit, maybe I could try comedy.
Yeah,
in a
good.
That's
country.
why I got into comedy.
In a country where no one knows where I am. So yeah, like I think I turned up like, and I was really drunk at the bar one time and I was chatting with my mates and the organizer of Tudor like overheard me and she was like, hey, I don't have any women on the lineup tonight. Do you want to go on? And that was
Go Brie.
literally how I got my first
Fate.
spot. And then occasionally she would just put me on. And like that was it. And then she referred me for a gig. And I don't know whether we're going to keep this in the podcast, but she referred me for a gig. It was like my 5th fucking time ever. I'd done a Coogee one and then I did a Manly one. And at the Manly one, a friend of the organizer groped me and like wouldn't let go of my breast. And there was another comedian
Is it
next
pre
to
or
me.
post Me Too?
Was pre, I guess.
Well, I mean, not that either
But,
way is good,
post
but
women's
Jesus.
rights. And
Not in this country.
yeah, there was a comedian next to me who'd been on the lineup with me, and I was saying out, it was also helpful, I guess, that I was sober. They were all trashed. They'd been buying me pints of beer, but I don't actually like beer. So I just was like, I don't want this, but they kept buying it. So I was just like pushing it around the
Yeah,
table.
'cause they're,
Somebody
like,
else
off
would
their
drink it,
tits.
but they didn't notice that I wasn't drinking it. And I was trying to just wait for my ferry, but it was like a fucking hour till the next ferry. And yeah, he grabbed my breast. He would not let go of it. And
Did you fucking slap him? Probably just shocked.
You like to think that you would, and I'm quite a bolshy person, but I was just like, I remember going, that's my breast.
Oh.
It's my breast. You can't touch my breast. And I was so naive because this guy was English. I thought, like, it's a misunderstanding. I was so stupid. Like, I'd been sexually assaulted before, but for some reason I was like, oh, this is the misunderstanding. I was like, I'm at a comedy gig. Like,
He's not meaning to be a fuckwit.
He's a friend of the organizer. So the comedian next to me did nothing. He was like, okay. And then he was like, do you know what? I'm going to leave you guys alone. And he left me.
Dude.
He left me and he went to the bar and I could actually see him and the other comedian like talking at the bar and like gesturing over to me and sort of like laughing awkwardly. And so I guess I thought, I was like, oh, okay, it must be funny. And then the guy who groped me like took my hand and like took me outside. And so I thought he was going to apologize.
Oh, I'd be
And then
so scared.
he just grabbed my
Robyn.
ass and was just kissing my face whilst I was
Robyn.
unmoving on the street. And then I ran into traffic to get away from him. So if there's anything to take away from this, it's road safety.
Did you tell the organizer later about the dude?
100%, yeah. And if you go into our messages now, it's just me like messaging him like, and by the way, you can tell him like nobody wants their breast grabbed, like, and running away from
You're being
someone.
very civil. That's
it was because I didn't know what to.
You don't know what to do.
I didn't know what to do, and this guy, I was so scared. And I was just sort of standing there whilst he was literally just tonguing my face. Like, I'm just like this. And he was just had his hands on my ass. And I managed to, like, step away. And he was like, you're coming home with me. And tried to like drag me down the street. And I was like, oh my God, I'm actually going to get raped. I was like, okay, this is how it happens. And I was like, oh, good, okay, cool. And so literally, I turned around. We were like right next to the road to the station and right next to where the road branches off. And I just ran across the station. So I actually have a gig in Manly next week and I'm pretty shit scared to go.
Yeah, right.
And then I just dropped off the map. I was like, okay, cool. I tried a thing. I still don't have any friends. That was terrible. And yeah, I didn't do comedy until What She Said opened in like May. I went to watch it like 3 times and then I talked to the organizers afterwards. And there was somebody who had actually seen me do comedy, which is such a coincidence because I'd done it like a handful of times.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I'd like to do comedy.
To give it a go.
And they were like, oh, yeah, you can sign up this place. And someone was like, oh, I saw her once. She's really funny. Now, whether or not they'd actually seen me or whether they were just like, she has red hair. I once saw a comedian with red hair. That's probably her. But we'll never know. But it worked because of What She Said. People were like, oh, cool. There was a massive misunderstanding where they thought I'd done comedy in London for years.
Oh, shit.
You should have fucking
They're
just
like,
claimed
headline
that.
act.
And they booked me on a gig in Newcastle, like when I'd been doing comedy like 3 weeks, and it was 2 people who'd just been to like a conference on sexual assault, and I did a story about being groped because I didn't know.
Oh shit.
Wow.
Anyways, that was that story. That's a different story. But yeah, so I've been doing comedy about a year is my answer.
Yeah, right. I can't even remember why I asked the question initially. That's so fucking, that's crazy.
I think you were like, how long have you been doing comedy? And I was like, it's funny you asked that.
Isn't it fucked that pretty much every woman in comedy is like, well, there was a sexual assault?
But isn't it just every woman in every... I don't know any woman... There's not one woman in my life that hasn't at some stage in their life
Do you know,
had to
actually none of my friends have been sexually assaulted.
But no groping, no nothing.
I guess...
well, I guess, do you know what? It's funny, isn't it? Because you are just like, oh, well, groping's by the by.
No, see, I'm talking
You're just
about...
on the tube when you get cum on your skirt. Oh, that's just a Tuesday.
This is what I mean. I said to Jen once, like, maybe twice a year I get condescended to because I'm quite short, some big fucking 6'3" guy, like, g'day, big fella. And I lose my mind. Like, don't you fucking dare speak to me like that. To even imagine that could potentially happen minute to minute, walking down the street. I've
had lots of colourful experiences in the past. Some of them have been rather traumatic, others not so much. But I didn't know what to do with them at the time because you don't know what the fuck to do with them at the time. But now I carry all that rage with me to the point where like a comedian who was quite innocent tried to make a joke about how I looked on stage.
Oh, you should tell. That's a great story. You should tell that story.
I'm not going to talk about who it is because I know that they don't
but
feel
use
good
the
about
line. The
it.
line.
Okay, so I was
name.
emceeing and I said, welcome up your act. Here comes this person. And he got up and he said, give it up for Jen Carnovale, everybody, your MC. Doing a great job with a cute lesbian haircut and her ass that won't quit.
Her ass that won't quit.
Fuck off.
Now I know this guy. Like I've gigged with this guy.
Unbelievable.
And
in 2019.
what I think he didn't know and what I feel sorry for him almost for is I carry 35 years of all that rage, just like a little backpack with me. So as soon as he did that, there was no part of me that was like, I'm going to let this slide. Who do you fucking think I am? Like, have you met me? Like, I am like at boiling point all the time. Like, I have Hungarian and Italian fire, just rage, just going through this all the fucking time. And so when I got up to say, he's done and Broadbridge was going to get up, who's going to be a guest on the show, I didn't even say anything that offensive. I was quite calm, but I made a comment about him. And the reaction...
Do the comment.
I said, give it up for this person. He's got mediocre arms and he's balding on top. That's all I said. And then I said, don't ever talk about my ass again. Okay?
Yeah, good.
Because where the fuck are we? Like the 80s in some shithole? Anyway, and I got off stage.
Have you not logged onto the internet in the last year and a half, bro? Like, what the dude?
But I got off stage and I could see immediately in his response, I was like, oh, this guy's just never been told this before. Like, I didn't even care. When I said it on stage, I didn't think for a minute, oh, he's going to be offended or upset because women get talked. I responded to him because I'm so used to this. I've been brought up with guys making lesbian jokes because I used to be in a duo where I worked with another woman. When we started, when we were like 25, a guy was doing a scissoring thing to bring us on stage. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've seen all this shit. So I don't care if I comment on how he looks. And I realized when I got off stage, I'm just so used to it as a woman, but I looked at him and I was like, oh, he's never had this before. He's never had someone poke fun at him for his physicality before because he's a dude and he's not used to someone responding in the way I am, you know? And it was so hilarious. It was like all that Me Too stuff where you as the woman have to fucking counsel them into, you know, he was just like freaking out. And I'm like, it's fine. Like I told you that I think you behaved in a dick way. Be worried about the women who don't tell you and tell everybody else in the industry, you know?
Yeah.
But
I think I need to be better at being angry.
Yeah, but bear
get
in mind,
there.
I have like 10 years on you, right? Yeah, you'll get there. Because when I was younger,
do comedy for a few more years. You'll
because when
collect
I
a
was
package
younger,
of hate.
I wouldn't have said anything. But when that happened, there was no doubt in my mind where I was like, well, I have to say something because who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
I think that's what it essentially has to come to. It's like, who the fuck are you?
But also now you know as well there is more support for you.
Yeah.
And I have the tools now in which I felt confident that I could deliver it where the audience would support me.
Yeah.
Whereas 10 years ago, if someone said that about me, I don't think I would have had the tools to confidently go up, make fun of them and feel as if the audience would laugh with me.
I would
feel like
years ago.
Yeah, the audience would be like, oh, grumpy little lady there doesn't like him talking about her bum, you know, and so...
Well, a couple of years ago, it was still normal to, you know, be like, okay, folks, now this next Sheila, you know, she's a woman, so let's go easy on her. That was still completely, you know, quote unquote acceptable way to bring a woman on stage.
100%. Like I do feel like the scene in Australia, Sydney, where I've done comedy, very, very new.
Very small scene too.
Is getting better than when I first moved here.
It is.
But still, my reaction, I don't know if it's going to change. My reaction has just been to leave. Like I was doing this set of gigs organized by this same guy, and they were all like his rooms. And he like just sort of kept me on the lineup for like a few months. It was like he got comfortable making more inappropriate comments until finally it got to the point where he made a joke to other comics whilst I was standing there about like putting me in a cocktail waitress outfit. And then that night when he brought me...
in that moment, go, yeah, I'd love to dress you up like a little sailor boy.
Well,
like,
exactly.
just fucking throw it straight back at
if you
them.
don't have it in
No,
you.
you don't
do
have
that.
it in you because it's, like, shocking.
But then I've
And
just
you shouldn't
stopped,
have to.
I've just stopped
No, you
doing
shouldn't
those
have to.
gigs. Like, because then that night when he brought me up, he said something about my figure, and I just tuned it out.
Yeah, it's not fair.
I was like, oh, but then I realized I'm always the only woman on this guy's lineups, and I was like, I'm condoning it. Like, there are women in the audience, and they're seeing how he speaks to me, and I'm there on stage, and I'm not saying like, hey, go fuck yourself. And I was like, right, I've just got to stop doing the gigs then.
yeah, it's not
don't
fair.
know what to do.
The thing I wish that would happen would be maybe some of the dudes would sort of
I know.
because that
and
gig
you know,
where the guy
afterwards
said
they
that,
were like, oh, he's so out of line. And I was like, fucking help me in the
fucking
night.
no,
coward.
you
You
say it
fucking
then.
coward.
You fucking say it then.
It's all the messages you get afterwards.
You say it then if you have any balls. When that guy made that comment and I was walking back to where the comics were, they were all just laughing. And I didn't care because I don't feel that highly of, I use the word comic loosely in that setting, but I was just like, all right then, that's cool, you know, but dare me to make a comment on how any of you fucks look, you know? It's like...
How good is what she said, though?
What she said is great, and I sort of wish it existed when I was younger. In the beginning, I was hesitant because in the past when female nights have happened, they've been catastrophes. But I think in retrospect, they were awful because they were run by men. Because this is run by a bunch of women.
Yeah.
And
it's literally the reason I'm in comedy.
It's actually so fun
Yeah.
because I do it all the time.
Yeah.
And it's really enjoyable. And it's this space where they're like, you know, there's some really brand new people who, you know, will probably quit after 2 months. And then there's some people who don't know what's happening. And then there's some people who are so fucking funny. And you're like, yeah, you need this stomping ground because you're not going to get, like you're saying, Robyn, you're not going to get off stage and have half the dudes be like, is that true about the cum? Like you're just going to get the tools that you need to go and do those other gigs.
And it felt nice and safe. And I did it. I only did that room or their, like when they took me to, I did like their gigs for 3 months.
Yeah, that's a good room.
And then after that, I felt like I could go and do open mics because obviously I knew what was in store from my brief experience like a couple of years earlier. So by the time I got out in the open and I was doing it, I did quite a few gigs because Catherine Thomas and I started at the same time.
Oh, cool.
So we would go together to like open mics and I was like, okay, I've got a buddy.
Yeah,
and like I've already done booked
starting comedy
gigs.
isn't hard enough.
Oh yeah, and that's now I have Chris, and I will take Chris with me to gigs, especially if they're in Manly.
Man, that's made me so angry. I'm not going to, don't worry, but I want to contact that person.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain I know who you're talking about as well. That's
What a pin dick.
very disappointing.
Boys Club.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny, like, you know, because
Yeah, you
I think
realise-
I think the dude mind, you know, because it's so outside of the realm of experience, you know, it's very hard to conceive of it as anything
Yeah.
other than kind of an abstraction, you know.
What
And
do
so
you
it's
mean? The harassment?
Well, yeah, just as I was saying before, like, you know, when I get condescended to, how just furious I get and how dare you belittle me. And I think it was only that experience that I could then extrapolate it out and go, oh, imagine if this was happening all the fucking time.
And also you're in, I don't want to say fortunate position, but you're in the unique position where you can feel rage instead of fear. Because
Yes.
for most of the time for women, it's just fear. It's not, it's like, that's what I meant where I was like,
That's
now
it. I would love
I
to be
should
angry.
feel scared sometimes, some of the shit I've done. And in the past, it probably would have helped. But now I'm at the point where I don't.
It's where my
No,
instinct
you're-
is still to run. Like I'm still just like if I'm
Yeah,
not
see, my
physically
instinct isn't
running
to
away
run.
from a guy, I'm like
My
actively
instinct is
running away
to-
from that gig. I'm like, right, I'm not doing that gig anymore. So I'm still flight.
No, my instinct is to like scream at them,
Yeah.
but to have, but I'm also very aware of who I'm engaging with. Like if that guy who made that comment was some roided up fuckhead who I thought was going to punch me, I probably would have pussied out and not said anything to him, but I definitely would have called it out online or something, you know, like for the
yeah,
safety
yeah,
of my
yeah.
home, where I could still vent that anger. But yeah, I think the difference is feeling rage versus fear. And for most women, most of the time, I think it's fear. If a random dude screams at me in a gig, I still get worried. you
Oh,
know?
100%. Yeah, I'm still nervous about complaining.
Oh, I don't care about complaining as much anymore.
I do. I'm still because I'm still sort of like, who the fuck am I? Like to say.
Well, you're a fucking human being.
But that's the thing is, it does get to you. Like
Yeah,
I
of
think I
course,
had
yeah.
better self confidence before I moved to Sydney and had all this stuff happen.
Yeah, also you left your support network and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's
I was
hard.
completely like I was just like I have no friends. Like I have no one to talk to about this.
I moved to London for a few years with an ex to do comedy, but a lot of the stuff you're talking about when you were saying you came here, it's hard. Yeah, it can be challenging. We moved there at the beginning of winter, so the whole weather thing and then being isolated and then going into comedy and then being Australian, so people who were interacting with me were just kind of like, I could fuck an Aussie chick. You know, like all that kind of stuff. I think can be tough. But I mean, you know,
It's so funny because I think a
not all
lot of the root of this is, you know, you were saying before, you know, like half an hour ago that, you know, you wish you could walk into a room and intimidate people.
Yeah, I'd love that.
The irony
I don't
is,
know.
well, no, but the irony is that I think the majority of males that behave like that, the motivation is pure intimidation.
yes.
It's pure intimidation. It's
I've never
you know,
seen a chick like this before.
yeah, or, you know, I'm really attracted to this person. I don't know how to just get that person with my charm or engage or anything like that. So, you know, that's where all the negging comes from. I'm not saying that this is an excuse or it's even justifiable.
Oh my god, the negging. Do you get the negging?
Yeah, but then I don't know. Again, I think it's because I'm older. And also, I think because what Ben was saying about the intimidating thing, I have been told a lot I'm intimidating. And what I will say within that is it can feel lonely because people, you know, don't engage as much. Whereas if you're friendly, it's a little bit different. But yeah, I get negging, then I just neg
but
them back.
I would-
or I call it out. Like, I'll be like, why are you...
I would posit that if you do, and I don't think you do get less engagement, but if you do get less engagement, it is more real engagement.
Possibly.
I don't think that you're doing a lot of small talk at gigs. I think when you're
Yeah,
talking
but I
to
think
people,
that's
it's
my
very-
problem. I don't know fucking how to. Look at us, Robyn.
I don't know if that's a problem.
I could have
I
just
think
met you
it's
for
an asset.
coffee. I'm like, do you want to come on the podcast? Talk about your dad, Robyn. Talk about your experience with shit men. Like,
I think I've heard of podcasts.
yeah, I've been negged, but you know, I don't care because it's so easy to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's like, who are you? Why are
think
you
also-
talking to me? What are you?
like Jen is so well known and amazing that it's like people,
Oh, it's so cute of you to lie to
No.
me like that, and you brought brownies as well.
Sweet potato brownies.
Let's just keep her forever.
legit. I did a gig with Chris recently. I
Your
love
Chris
it.
or her Chris?
My Chris.
Yeah.
I love it when we're both on the same lineup. But also because we're so different, like styles as
Yeah.
well, and
Yeah.
people are often like, "Oh my god, you guys are together." Okay, but often before they realize we're together, and before they realize that Chris and I have been doing comedy for about the same amount of time, like
You're both so good.
thank you. We're very proud. No, we're very proud of each other. It's quite nice. We build each other up.
really cute.
We're still like, was that okay? And then like we're both. yeah, we're both really nice to each other about
Top
our
10
sets,
comedy
so.
couple.
But like men will come up to him, like male comedians and male audience members, and be like, "Oh, that was amazing." And to me, they'll be like, "Oh, that was amazing. It'd be even funnier if you changed it to this.
yeah.
It'd be so good if you did this." Or be like, "Oh, you're pretty good for like this." And I'm just like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, can't I just get the same compliments as Chris, please?"
I think so much of it comes from like, you know, again, none of this is a justification. I'm talking just purely
Theoretically.
the psychological, theoretical. I think so much of it comes from, you make me feel a certain way.
Yeah, you make me feel insecure.
And you make me feel like I want you and I can't have you. And so you're making me feel bad.
Or
So
they
I'm
just
going to
make
make you
feelings
feel
are
bad.
your fault.
Yeah, exactly.
They need to bring you down a notch.
Exactly right. I need to
And
make
they're not
you
going to do
feel
it physically because they're clearly intimidated by how you look. And they can't do it, you know, with your work or whatever. So the only easy, tangible thing is your comedy. So it's so easy for them to go, I've got to bring it down a notch. You're good at comedy, but, you know, and the implication with them giving you advice is they're somehow better, which is so funny. Because I can imagine
and they have a
these
wisdom
dudes.
that, you know, if you just wanted to talk to me for a bit longer, maybe you could access this wisdom that I have, and maybe I could help you out even more. Like and none of this is to justify it, but I think when you know what the motivation
doing.
is a lot of the time, or what they're doing, it becomes a lot easier to
No one ever
step.
No, it doesn't become
You don't
easier.
think so? No.
It's still.
No one ever gives me or my Chris advice ever.
You have a resting, go fuck yourself face.
No one ever talks to
I
either of
have
us.
resting bitch face. I have a really mean face. I just don't think it
You don't have a
stops
mean
anyone.
face.
You are so warm
I'm
and
very
lovely, Robyn.
animated right now. But if I'm sleepy, as I often am after a gig, and someone comes up to me, I'm like,
Yeah, I don't know.
and
I like how you did your resting bitch face on an
still-
audio medium.
It was horrifying.
We'll cut it. But no, the best thing that someone ever said to me after a gig was a male comedian, and again, as like a male open mic comedian, who is not often on booked rooms. I don't think we've never been on a
It's the
booked
most
lineup
polite
together.
way of saying he's a
They
shit
suck.
comic.
We've never been on a book lineup together, but still, after I'd been doing comedy like about 4 months, so like 1 month outside of the What She Said room, he came up to me and I have this joke. It's true. I was on Bumble and I messaged this guy that had like a little bio in Spanish, and he just said, I have 182 centimeters. So I messaged him, was like, I am 149 centimeters tall, just to like strike up a conversation because I was bored and in Australia. And he messaged back, big boobs, and then a thumbs up emoji. I think about that all the time, mainly because I do it as a joke. But this open mic guy came up to me afterwards. First time we've ever spoken.
You've almost got to appreciate just like it's like a dog saying it.
It is. It's exactly. It's like
Scooby-Doo.
it's animalistic.
It's so cute. I miss him. And yeah, this open mic guy came up to me afterwards. First time we'd ever spoken, and he went, "This is literally that. Like we were sort of like." He was like, "Oh, good set," and I was like, "Oh, you too. You know how you lie." And then he was like, "Oh, it's great when you talk about your boobs because we're all looking at them, and when you talk about them, it means that it's okay for us to look at them. Like it's great when you bring them up." And I was like, I told a whole story about living in France. I told like a whole story about fish and
It's
chips.
like a short, funny bit.
And then I did a 30-second joke to close about somebody had said something to me, and you interpreted that as the whole set of me talking about my breasts.
But the crazy thing is that he would have sat there and he would have written that line in his head, and it's
He was
just
like,
like,
I need to go and tell her that I loved it when she mentioned her tits.
It's like the guys that lean out of car windows. Like, it's like, where do you think this ends? Like, do you think that this ends with like, I've
ends
been waiting
with
for it to be
Robyn.
catcalled my whole life?
Yeah.
Like, please.
It ends with Robyn going, you know what? If you enjoy them, you can just stare.
Yeah, like
all the
they're
time.
yours now. They're yours.
But I get comments all the time. Like this is so sick. I've always had large breasts, like really, really, really early.
Oh, you're lucky.
No,
I had nothing
it's
until like
it's
ages.
fucked
I've had
because
big breasts as well my whole
people
life.
comment
All right,
all
you
the
too.
time, and I don't know what to do with the comments because I didn't choose to have them.
If it makes you feel better, because I was so flat-chested until I was in my 20s, people also comment on that. Like people outright will be like,
"Wow,
you are so flat-chested." Like they will stare at where your boobs should be and
Why
say,
is anyone
"Oh my
commenting
god,
on your
you have
breasts?"
no bust." And I was like, "Yeah, or esteem. Fucking thank you." Like,
But it's like, what do you want me to do with that?
Well, exactly. It's like I don't know.
How do you want me
but
to
that's
respond
what
to
I
that?
mean by women are used to being commented on their physicality.
Exactly.
Men are not. So women are used to from a young age.
It depends.
And
It
what
depends.
they want you to do with it is they
I
do,
would.
It depends.
they do
money
want
that-
you to be into it. They want you to be into it because honestly, when I was 13, I was walking through a concert. I was trying to get through this crowd, and as I walked by, a guy who must have been in his 20s and his friend went, "Whoa, those can't be real." And I was like,
Oh,
"Do you think at
gross.
13 that I chose to be sexualized in a t-shirt walking through a concert trying to find my dad? Like, is that what you think?" And that's the thing is, I get comments all the time, and when they're like, "Oh, you've got such big boobs," it's like, "Oh, thank you for telling me.
But is that what
I
it is?
didn't notice." No, they want me to be like, thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's really sexy. Can we go out?
Because
for a
I am
drink?"
just a pair of tits. That's
I am
all
literally.
I am.
They are attached to me, and I chose to have. I've been up for a breast reduction twice.
Oh,
You
really?
have.
Yeah, and one time I had to
Wait,
cancel.
you had-
no,
you've
no,
had-
I've been up for it. Like I've
Right.
in the NHS, you can like get on a waiting list. I've been on a waiting list since I was 15.
Yeah, wow.
And then one time I couldn't have it because they like changed the regulations, so they took me off the list. I had to start again. And then by the next time I was on it, I was moving to Australia, and I was like, oh fuck it, I'll just get it. Like if I ever have kids, look at it after I have kids. But it's so complicated. But anyway, yeah, they.
that's what I mean.
Is
Women-
that something that you still want to have done?
Yeah, I have chronic back pain and I
Yeah,
have
right.
arthritis in my neck.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
But you know, it's worth it all.
Comments.
Look, I don't know why you're complaining. You get open mic boys coming up ogging you. So
And there's no more hot demographic than a young open micer. Ooh, reeking of links and insecurity.
men.
Yeah, wow. This is that's really fucking upsetting, man.
I didn't mean to talk about this.
No, it's
I wanted
good.
to
It's
talk
good.
about
About whatever you want to talk about.
I wanted to talk about happier things, but
No,
we
no,
immediately
If you
talked
want to talk about
Brexit.
something happier, we can.
If you've ever listened to this podcast,
We're massively over time.
No, we've got like we're good.
Few more minutes.
Yeah.
We've got like 3 minutes.
No, we've got like 10.
5 to 10 minutes.
Okay, what's your favorite kind of fruit?
Okay. At the moment, mandarin. But I'm a mango gal. When they're at their
Depends
peak.
what kind of mango. R2, E2 mangoes. But I'm a Panama passion fruit kind of guy.
Can you notice
Can
the
I
label
say
dropping? Yeah.
the first?
It's a cultivar of mango.
It's
not
a fancy.
fucking-
It's a fancy fruit. The first meme I ever sent my now boyfriend, which is I think how I won his heart, with a little. It's a hand holding a mango,
Yeah.
and the text just says, "If your man is no good, then let that."
mango.
Oh, cute.
And he was like, "Oh, that's really bad." And I was like, "That's my favorite meme, actually." So you need to get on board with this if we're going
Unless
to
you're
go
on board with
anywhere.
visual fruit puns, this isn't going to work out.
That was pretty much my standing point. Yeah, I was like, "You need to get on board with this strawberry."
Other than comedy, what do you love? What do you love doing? Like what
that's
gets
a good
you what
question.
gets you all jazzed up?
I do like a lot of arty things actually, like painting, drawing, singing.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
cool.
You draw?
Yeah, I do draw.
What do you draw?
People. I love drawing people.
Are you
like
good?
portraits and like realistic or like
Yeah, I do
more
vaguely
abstract?
realistic portraits. Whenever I do landscape, it gets really impressionist. Wow, I sound
jealous.
so wanky
No,
right now.
you don't. I'm so jealous of that.
Actually, I do little paintings of the sea and I send them to my French mum. She's not my real mum. That would be so great if she was. Because she's lovely and my real mum's insane. But I do little pictures of the Australian like sea because it's really pretty. And I send them to her in the post and she loves them.
I've always
That's so lovely.
I always wish I
thank
could have
you.
been one of those people that sits on a bus and draws faces.
I do that on holidays.
Oh my god, I do that, but
No,
then
see, I wish
sometimes
I could do
people
that.
see you and they get so creeped out. And I feel like I'm
I
stealing
wish I
their
could do
face.
that. I was watching a documentary about talking about things as becoming more problematic as time goes on. Have you guys seen the doco about Robert Crumb?
No.
The cartoonist Robert Crumb?
No.
Very famous underground cartoonist, kind of started the whole underground scene.
I do
total sexual pervert and just obsessed with drawing. He's obsessed with women with big thighs and knee-high boots. He's got a big boot fetish.
Aren't we all? High five.
But yeah, I was just there's a lot of footage of him just sitting and just drawing, the street or a face, and man, it's just a skill that I always wish I had. It's so it must be so lovely because comedy's so kind of
It's not tangible.
no, it's not tangible. It's so in the moment, and to be able to participate in an art where you can have a stack of things, physical objects to look at must be really rewarding.
Yeah, that's the thing is I've only just started writing down my jokes.
I've had
I
a few people.
very, very rarely record my sets. Very rarely.
It is a good thing to do.
See, like I
record all of
don't
mine.
know.
It's a good thing to do.
I record them all on my phone.
If for no other reason than to immunize yourself against the horror of listening to yourself.
Okay, see,
just
that's
to
the
get
thing
used
is
to
I'm
your
not
own.
over the cringe yet.
You got to push past that shit. You got
Well,
to
just keep recording them until you're ready. You don't have to listen to them. But I record all of mine. Just the.
I think I might need to get a better phone.
And if you're doing open mic stuff, like I've never actually seen you perform, but if
I'm very good.
Very
Jen
good.
thinks you're good, so you're good. But
told
you know,
them
if
you're
you're doing, if you
I
are
am
doing
okay.
stories, you know, like I do a lot of that stuff as well. Like, you know, this is what
Narrative.
happened today, blah 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 blah, and you know, I do my best writing when I'm talking on stage. So if I don't,
I'm the same.
So you got to record it.
But then
Yeah,
I
so
just,
but then
I'll.
But you don't- you're not
I'll
gonna remember it all.
them. I see. I do.
Do you?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I sound like such a dick, but like the vast majority, I will remember if a tag worked or not, and I've got lots of different endings that I'll do to my jokes depending
go.
on the night.
you should still. You should still.
I
not
am.
not to
I
sound
am
like an
writing them
obnoxious
down.
open micer.
No, I am. Sometimes I record, and do you know what the cutest thing in the world is? Chris will record my sets for me. Even if I'm like, oh, I'm not recording this one, he will record it for me. Especially if I'm like doing really well, and then afterwards he'll be like, so I recorded that, and I'm like, oh, thank you.
I do that for Chris because he doesn't like
Lovely,
recording
supportive
himself.
couple.
Yeah,
It's cute.
I record Chris too.
Look
I've
at
filmed
both
a couple
you.
of
See,
Chris.
comedy
You're in this
couples aren't bad.
Comedy power couples.
The secret is to be called Chris. I feel like that's
Possibly.
how you become a nice male comedian.
My Chris,
Fuck you.
my Chris is lovely.
It's either it's Chris or Ben, but only if your surname is Caution. Wait.
Very good, very funny, very good. And with that, we're out of time.
I just like to compliment Ben Caution from afar. I just feel like
Another Jew.
he is
Are
another
you Jew? I didn't realize.
I am
I'm a Jew too.
Hey!
I'm not, but I'll hang out anyway.
That was that story.
European. We'll
Real
have
quick,
you.
I want to tell that. You know how earlier we were talking before about
Oh, yeah,
you know,
go,
like
Ben.
audience reactions and stuff.
Please.
And you know how like I'm not really into comedy at the moment because of that kind of stuff. I was doing a gig about a year ago, and I was talking about some grubby stuff, and the word "cunt" was uttered in that. Yes, and a lady in the front row gasped
I'm
loudly,
still a virgin, so that was.
clutched her pearls, and started, you know, loudly telling me that I shouldn't say that word. No. And I was like, well, look, you know, it was said in a certain context, and words inherently have no meaning other than the context that they're in and the way they're delivered.
And you're telling a
I'm telling a
story.
story.
I'm sorry, you came to a comedy show.
Yeah, and you know, and I didn't, you know, get up in someone's face and go, "You fucking cunt!"
Yeah.
Like that's different from, "Hey, you fucking cunt." And she, you know, well, I disagree. Blah 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 blah. A couple of minutes later, I did a joke about being a Jew. She interrupts again and goes, "Oh, you're a Jew? Forget everything I said before. You're allowed to say whatever you want." Because before I was just a disgusting white male, but now I'm an oppressed minority, so I can say whatever I want.
How crazy is that?
Fucking nuts,
That's
right?
crazy.
Isn't that the most condescending fucking just? Ugh.
I'm gonna start saying whatever I want.
Yeah,
No, you can't say shit. I'm Jewish.
yeah.
You can't say that.
Holocaust.
That's really funny.
Oh God, that could be your tagline.
Holocaust.
So what are you gonna do?
a great
Holocaust.
That's a fantastic tag. I said that I was, as I have this joke about being a secret Jew that you can't tell until I turn to the side. I just turned to the side. There was a visual thing. Ben loved it.
I've had the same thing, but it's about my gesticulations. How the older I get, the more of this.
The more Jewy you get. Yeah. I'm doing that too. And I'm starting to go, huh? Like, but
Yeah.
for real, when I mishear
You
something, I
make
go,
fun of me
huh?
for that. When I can't hear something, I go, "Huh?"
Yeah.
Huh?
It's the most, it's
No,
in
no,
us.
it's
Like, you don't
just-
control it.
I know.
I don't think anyone else in my family does it, but it's in me.
That's why I
and
don't
it's
think you
coming
convert
out.
to Judaism really, because it's like
Yeah.
it's, you know, your blood's either.
It's your
fucking-
culture.
Well, you know, you've either got this heaviness in your genes and this thing that starts coming out the older you get. You know, you
I
can
think
spin
it's-
dreidels and shit.
Well,
but that
Chris
ain't
keeps saying he's going to convert because it'll make him funnier.
God, then he'll really be called a race traitor. I'll be like, as a Jewish guy, I just
little
want to.
Asian Jew.
it. Oh.
You love it.
Hey, Robyn, have you got anything to plug online?
Where can people find you?
I have a Facebook page.
And do you have Twitter as well? No.
I do. I just got Twitter.
Okay.
It's very sad. All I
Jumping
do
on
is
board a dying medium.
yeah. All I do is I screenshot it and I post it to Facebook. So it's what everyone else is doing.
No.
I was like, I'll do what everyone else is doing. Because, you know, a creature of habit. And I love a good meme. Yeah, Robyn Reynolds, just Robyn with a Y. I think it's Robyn Reynolds Comedian on Facebook. But more importantly, if anyone is listening to this and they want to spend $16 on an hour of comedy, please come to my fringe show. It's called Relatable Material. It's very relatable. It's a lot of material. And it's me and Chris.
What dates?
Yay!
The 11th to the 14th of September. We didn't choose the dates, so it starts on the 11th of September. And if anyone says anything about it, I've just been saying it's going to be an explosive night of comedy. It's so bad.
I'm offended.
But I can say anything because I'm Jewish.
Thanks, Robyn.
Thank you so
you.
much. Yay!